Welcome to your Nole Insiders game preview as Florida State gets ready to take on Wake Forest inside Doak Campbell Stadium, 3:30 on ESPN. I'm Lane Hurt along with Tim Lunefeld. Let's take a quick look at your Wake Forest Demon Deacons. They're a Atlantic Division foe, 5-1 on the year, 2-1 in the league, unranked. They're much improved, but the offense still struggles a bit. 110th in the nation in total offense, 346.5 yards per game. They are 34th in time of possession, though, holding onto the ball for 32 minutes a game. Defense, much improved as well. They are 43rd in the nation. Tim, I know fans kind of look at this game as like, oh, after the tough stretch that we've played, it's finally a chance to breathe. Is that really the case, though?
Well, yes and no. Look, Wake Forest, as Jimbo Fisher said, is 5-1 for a reason, and I think that's true. They do have a couple of ACC wins against Duke and Syracuse. I think it's the type of game that if Florida State, if the team feels that way and comes out and isn't prepared and isn't sharp and isn't focused, especially early in the game, it could get a little bit uncomfortable there in the second half. And, you know, it wasn't all that long ago that Wake Forest was a real thorn in Florida State's side. So I think the big thing that you want to see was for Florida State to come out, build on that Miami game last week, and come out and play the way that they've shown at times that they're capable of this season. And if they do that, I think they should be all right.
I think you hit the nail on the head. Wake Forest, a team that doesn't get penalized a lot. They're +5 in turnover margin. If you play well, you probably win. But if you struggle a little bit, they're a team that's going to cause you some problems.
Yeah, as the cliche goes, I think that they're a team that's not going to beat themselves, which is kind of what you have to be in that sort of situation. I do think it's a situation where Florida State, I mean, they're going to have probably a deeper roster, probably more talent on the roster with the way they recruit comparatively. And that's just kind of the way it is with this series. And I think Wake Forest has experienced that dynamic against Florida State and a lot of other teams. So what do? They maximize what they have. They play sound situational football. And again, they don't, like you said, get penalized. They don't make a lot of mistakes. And so all that does is set up where if you are going to provide an opportunity, they're going to be as well positioned as possible to take advantage of that opportunity. So the key for Florida State then is to not provide those opportunities.
Let's move to our stat of the week. Thanks to the guys at Pro Football Focus. We're going to go to the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, against Miami, the defense looked much improved. Here's one of the reasons why. It was the rush defense. In weeks 1 through 5, Florida State had 201 tackles on 102 stops. Stops means holding a running back or a rusher for less than 3 yards on a carry. They did that 50% of the time. Against Miami, 37 tackles, 24 stops. That number rose to nearly 65%. That ranks with the top run defenses in the country, just behind Michigan and Alabama. Clearly, Tim, the defense really got things figured out, at least for a week.
Yeah, absolutely. I think even more impressive is the fact that it came against two of the ACC's better running back in Mark Walton and Joe Yearby. There was the long run by Mark Walton, but it was flagged for a holding call, and I can assume that if there wasn't a hold, that run probably wouldn't have happened. So the one thing that jumps out to me is, again, when you don't have that threat of the running quarterback the way Florida State's had so often in the first month of the season, it's maybe a little bit easier to defend the run. But even more than that, it's the idea you have to have something that you can hold your hat on or hang your hat on as a defense, whether it's your secondary or pass rush or your run defense. And I think if Florida State's run defense is turning a corner, it's a really positive development. I think most coaches would tell you got to be able to stop the run before you can do anything else. Make the other teams one-dimensional and go from there. So if what we've seen is a sort of a line in the sand for Florida State's run defense, and I think we'll know more this Saturday and moving forward, that's a really significant development for Florida State's season.
I'm sure that flag came from the guy whose kids went to Florida State as well anyways.
Yeah, I heard about that. Okay. Be that as it may.
On to our matchup of the week. We changed sides of the ball with Florida State's offensive line versus Wake Forest's defensive line. They ranked 22nd in the nation in sacks with 18 on the season. You have some data on this. Florida State's offensive line has improved over the past 3 weeks.
Yeah, and there's a pretty clear line there between the first half of I guess you could say the first quarter of the season and the second quarter of the season. Through 3 games against Ole Miss, Charleston Southern, and Louisville, Florida State allowed 11 sacks, which is a pretty healthy number. In the second 3 games of the season, which you remember is when they initially went to Brock Rubel at right tackle. They did that in advance of the USF game. Those 3 games that have followed, Florida State's allowed 7 sacks. Now, you still want to clean that up a little bit. You saw DeAndre Francois, even if he wasn't sacked as often, he got hit a ton against Miami. You want to clean that up and keep him more upright. But the fact that Florida State's sack numbers are trending in the right direction, I think is a pretty good thing.
Well, there you have it, Seminole fans. Florida State and Wake Forest set for you on Saturday at 3:30 inside Doak Campbell Stadium. We'll have your 3 keys to a Seminole victory on Saturday morning. And, of course, right now on Seminoles.com, you can read Tim's First and 10 article to get you all set for the Noles and the Demon Deacons. So for Tim Linnefelt, I'm Lane Hurt. Go Noles.